I painted my first wall, my friend and my mentor, my best friend, he was like, well, so what name do you want to go with? And I really had no idea. I figured I could use my own name, but then he was like, but that's your real name, and nobody uses their real name. You know, your name needs to have some sort of significance. And at that point, I was just searching so hard and deep, but then I realized that I picked Imagine because my mom's name is Kalpana, and when you translate that in English, it's basically imagination or imagine. And I'm away from home so much that I always keep her very close to my heart. And she's always supported me in what I do, no matter how crazy it is. I first started painting murals when I moved to Boston. A lot of my friends are some of the first people who ever started graffiti in Boston. They're pioneers in Boston. And I got to learn from them firsthand. So that's how I kind of got exposed to it. I used to do a lot of photography, so I was taking pictures of them painting. And then slowly I was kind of just really into it. And then I started working really hard. I got to a point where I was writing similarly to American kind of graffiti style, but then at that point I was like, okay, how can I start to make this my own? And that's when I started delving into Nepali letters and appreciating the aesthetics of it. And so fusing that with what I was learning in Boston, it only made sense, and I felt like my voice was shining through more through that art form. First mural that I painted in Nepal was somewhere in an alley in Balwadar because I wasn't sure how people would react to it, because street art and graffiti wasn't really out and about that much at that point, let alone a girl doing it. So it was a kind of a spotlight session every time I was painting, which I wasn't comfortable with. And so I was doing it in an alley, but then later I figured I'd go big and bold, so now I paint like huge walls. So last year I was selected to paint at Powwow Worcester. Powwow is an international street art event that invites artists from all over the world to paint. And it's sort of like a brand, right? So there's Powwow Hawaii, there's Powwow DC, there's Powwow Tokyo, Hong Kong, and now there was Powwow Worcester where I was invited. And I didn't know it would happen, but I got the key to the city, which is crazy. So the mayor gave me the keys to the city, to Worcester, which is probably like the biggest accolade I've received as an artist. Apparently with the key, you can like break one law and like go around the city and do something. But yeah, it was quite an honor. So I worked at Artists for Humanity in Boston. I worked there for about 3 or 4 years. And then after that, basically I was working as the education coordinator there, but I was also working as a studio manager. So I was working with inner city teens, helping them to get into college, but also mentoring them with painting. But at that time, after about 3 or 4 years, it made me realize that we need a space similar to that in Kathmandu too. Because I knew more kids in Kathmandu that were kind of just going through it. And I applied for this grant and then quit my job and then moved here the next day. So it was sort of like taking a leap of faith, but then I also knew that regardless of the grant, I would create a space that's similar to that. So that's how the Children's Art Museum happened. It's not just, underprivileged kids who don't have this, it's kids, period, that don't have art experiences. And I went to one of the best schools in Nepal, and I still felt like I didn't have that opportunity. And I didn't love school, and I felt like there's another way to learn. And that's where my mind kind of started going, okay, well, what can we do in Kathmandu that makes sense, that we can provide something that I never had, these kids never basically what we're doing is creating a space for art in learning, and the opposite too, right? And so what I'm doing right now is doing research on the social and cognitive dimensions of learning, or arts in learning. So the workshops that we do here, one of the workshops is based on graffiti principles. We're exploring how that helps kids think about their identity and themes of collaboration, and that's something so important. And once the research is complete, we'll be able to share it with other schools, share it with teachers as a toolkit so they can share it with their kids, and they can have that experience as well. I got to a point where I felt like CAM is bigger than me at this point. It's not my baby anymore, right? It's serving so many kids. We've served over 6,000 kids that I need help. I need to learn more. I need to help my leadership staff expand more, and so I thought it was time to go back to school. So I got accepted to the Harvard Graduate School of Education, and that's where I'm at right now, learning a lot about entrepreneurship, leadership, education, innovation, how to disrupt spaces that have been kind of stagnant for a long time, not just schools, but just learning spaces in general too.